Today we're going to make some extruded clay. We're going to make some long skinny strands, and we're going to work with them to make a shabby chic treasure box. And to make those you're going to need an extruder. I really wouldn't want to try to roll those out by hand because it would be awful tough to get skinny strands that are uniform. This is a walnut hollow extruder. It's kind of like a Megan's extruder, which you may have seen. It's a green one. It's in a lot of the stores. The green one is. The difference between the Megan's, the green one, and this walnut hollow is it has a kind of a more sophisticated crank system. The only thing about it is that it kept coming off, and now I'm kind of stuck with this thing, but it's still a bit easier than the handle on the Megan's. The other extruders you can get are these super snazzy ones. So if you're the type of person that's really into extruding, there's a whole world there for you. You're going to love it. I'll make you more videos about it. But if you're going to do a lot of it, you'd want a really high-end extruder, and that's what these Czech extruder are. They're from the Czech Republic, and they're made by Lucy Clay Tools. This is the generation I had before, and you can see the difference with the crankshaft on this one. So it's really heavy duty, and they just keep making improvements, and they have a lot of other neat things too at Lucy Clay. So I'm just going to send you a link and let you look into it, because you may be interested in extruding, and you may have hands that are kind of weak like mine are getting. So today I'm going to use my nice big heavy duty XXL, and I'm going to extrude all of this into spaghetti. I'll be right back. So I've got my little spaghetti going here, and what I've got here is a box from the cigar store. You can buy really cool unfinished boxes at Michael's. They have the best ones of all the craft stores that I know of. Or you can use boxes that you can get at the cigar store. I've got a really good one locally. That's what I use. This is the finish that it had on it, this nice bright red. That's why I brought in the alizarin crimson. But the reason that this one looks different is I wiped it down with a little bit of acetone on a rag, because I want this to be kind of shabby chic, antique-y looking, and that's what we're going to make. So I prepared a slab, and it's a little bit bigger than this size, because I want to make sure that my design is good all the way to the edges when I cut it down to make it into this lid. So I'm going to work on this size. I'm going to build all the way out to the edges, and then we'll cut it down when we get ready to put it on here. So to make your coils, it's really pretty easy, and it's really pretty fun. You're just taking your clay, and I like to pinch a little point in one end before I get started. And I always like to start the coils in my hands. I can always lay them down on the work surface if I want to wind them up, like this way, if I want to. But they're always easier to get started in your hands. I've used a good sized die for this when I extruded it. And I did that because I wanted you to have a really fun experience this time without really struggling with little tiny, teeny pieces. So this is a larger size round extruder than some people use for this project, but I really like it. So I'm not going to lay them down yet. I'm going to make my coils in different sizes, and then I'm going to decide how I want my pattern to be. So here's our coils, and we want to start thinking about how we want them to look. I'm going to take a red one, and I'm going to put it right there. And when I put the red one there, I'm going to set something nearby it of kind of a different size, and I'm going to start thinking about how to join them together. So they don't have to be, you know, exactly joined, but what we want to do with them is to make them blend together to pull the design pieces together, the 9 coils. So I'm going to drop this into the space that I've created, and I'm going to come back and go into this space and go around this piece here. I'm going to just leave that one there for a minute and go over here and pick up another color. And I'm going to put this one right here. That's one way to do that. And you can also cut little pieces out of them. And so I've just brought out my graduated cutters. And I can attach pieces here that aren't exactly whole. And that gives it kind of a neat cohesive feel too, like we kind of know what we're doing here. Now I don't like that real big piece there, so I'm going to cut that off and have this be something else. If you see anything on your design that's not flowing, You can change it anytime you want to, and that's really the fun of it, is just to concentrate on your design, see where you're going, how you like it, what it's doing for you. I'm going to stick another little coil down in here, and I'll be bringing another strand out here to join these together. Various tools that you can get. These are Christy Friesen tools. They're stainless steel, really neat tools. But don't forget, you've got all kinds of stuff laying around your house. Really, we all do. And one of my favorite tools, especially for texture, is a little bitty screwdriver. I'll show it to you. It's really neat. This is my favorite screwdriver, and it's my favorite because it makes little star shapes in my material. And we talked a little bit before about the importance of putting in texture. So anytime I want to, I can take my little screwdriver, and every so often in my pattern I can make some little stars. And I think it already adds a lot. So I'll take some there. I think I'd like some in here. And they don't need to be in every strand, but they could be. Also, you could use different shapes, just a plain dot in some of them. A lot of people like to put lines in them, and I'll show you that in a second too. See how it kind of mashes them down a little bit? That's a good thing. But you can also take a tool or a little butter knife or whatever you've got, and you can make these kind of lines in them, because those straight lines look really neat too. And get next to the other colors, just kind of go easy. You don't want to chop through anything that you already did. So you've got all the choices in the world about how you want your end product to look. Here's a ball stylus effect. Okay. So you have coils. You have strands to wrap them with. You have the ability to cut them down and make them fit together in different ways that you think up as you go. So I'm going to finish this up, and then we're going to talk about things we can do with it. Now when you get to your edges, you can make little stacks of lines like these. They all look really pretty in your end design. And what you're doing now is just, survival fill. I mean, not only are you tired, but these little spots can be tricky and hard to do. So don't try to get too fancy with them. Just make sure there's something there, because when we get this trimmed off and we get our border put on it, it's going to be gorgeous, and you're not going to be worried about little strange things that are at the edges. And they're very likely going to be mostly cut off. So you see I've stacked some color here. I put some same colors here. And that's all I'm doing now, is just making sure that I've got some kind of design all the way out to the edges. Well, our top is finished. I think it turned out great. I really had fun texturizing it, and that's something that I think you're going to enjoy doing too. It's super relaxing and fun. I'd love to see what you do, so don't forget to email pictures to me, okay? That's busypandora@gmail.com. So the top needs to be baked, and lots of times we bake right on wood surfaces. But, when I can avoid it, I don't, because some you have to do, I understand. But others, you can just bake separately and then stick it on with some really good glue. Wood can warp, it can expand and contract, and so as long as you don't have to use your wood surface, go ahead and avoid it. If it's unavoidable, you can make it work, and we can talk about that. So, rather than cutting it out with this, I've made a template. And the reason I've made a template is you can see this is a little bit wider, because this kind of a lid slides in and out of the box. So it's really important right now to make a really accurate cut on your lid. And to do that, I make templates like this. Just a piece of cardboard. This is from my tea box. I just use cardboard that I find around the house. So I'm going to take my template with the top on the top, the bottom on the bottom, and I'm going to make a clean cut across both. and also on the sides. Now if you have a flaw, which I have kind of a high side here, well then move it over to the side with the least flaws. They're really no big deal, but you want it to be as nice as you want it, so just choose the part where you really are wanting to show it. So I'm going to move it over here a little bit to hide that little high hump, and we're going to just be cutting off the excess, and I'll do that now. I'm going to save these pretty pieces. I'd love to do something with them. Wouldn't it be neat to make a great big sheet of this and make a border all around the bottom of your box? So I've got this cut pretty nicely. You see it's going to be really good. And anything that was irregular around the edge is eliminated now. Your box is good. I think it's going to slide well. I think it's going to fit well. And I'm going to cure this piece on this piece of cardboard. So I'm going to set this aside to cure. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of a bonus, and that is lining your boxes. So this is how I make the lining, and it's really pretty easy. I take a piece of tape and I lay my lining good side down right here on the tape. I do it on both sides, and that's so that it won't fight you back and curl up and everything when you're trying to lay it down. So here's my tape. It's sticky sides up. Okay. Now I take my cardboard, and I'm using this Sobo glue right now. You know, it smells exactly like regular white glue, so I'll look into it for you guys and find out if, you know, maybe I'm overspending getting fancy glue. This was not cheap, you know. But anyway, Eileen's, there's all kinds of good glues in your Michael stores and stuff. But I picked up this Sobo to try it out because I heard it was pretty good. So I'm going to take that and put it on there. And then I'm going to lay this in here like this. Then I'm going to curl this in and just tape it down, okay? Because when you try to get it to stick and you keep going like that and everything and you're trying pinching it, it's really annoying. You're going to hate that, so just tape it, okay? So just make sure it's nice and tight and pretty even as you can, you know. It's going to look really good. Anyway, it doesn't have to be perfect, but this is about the easiest way to do it. You stick it all down, okay? And it's nice and straight, and you let it dry. And then when they're all dry, you just peel off the tape, and you place each of them where they go. Okay, and now you got this really nice lined box, and it's going to look really pretty. I've glued the top on, and it came out really well with this glue. I tried this Weld Bond, and as much as I like my Gorilla Glue, it does tend to dry out kind of quickly. I end up throwing a lot of it away. And this Weld Bond was actually faster too. It said 24 hours, and this thing would not budge in 30 minutes. So it's a pretty good glue, the Weld Bond. I liked it. It wasn't too expensive. I think it was about $6, but there's a lot in there. So I've got my top on here. It's super secure. It's not going anyplace, and I've got my lining done. And today we're going to add some extra touches. And you know, when we do this stuff, I don't want you to think, oh my God, Pandora, when is this going to be over? You know, it looks fine. It does look fine. I really like it just the way it is. But the reason I show you all kinds of options and techniques was, you know, because I can and because you can. You're going to want to try all kinds of things as you go along, and only you know what you're trying to achieve with your design. So I show you everything I could think of. I hope you don't find it tedious. So that's what we're going to do. What I've done is I've extruded some really nice pieces using these two. The colored dies come in the Extruder collection. They've got all these different color-coded dies, and it's pretty cool because they offer us dies that the regular companies don't have. You kind of get a a view of them here. So the silver ones that you see in here came with extruders that you can just get locally, like the Makins and like that Walnut Hollow. And if you're not going to do a lot of extruding, just go get one of those, you'll have it today. You're going to do a lot of extruding or you want some really unusual shapes, that's what these are for. then that's your choice. So what I used, oh, this thing is my die picker upper, you know. You can do everything with polyclay, huh? So I chose these two to make my trim. This one's really interesting. It's kind of like a blade shape, kind of a half round blade shape, and I've never seen one like that before. I just got it recently. And I'm going to put that along the bottom rim of the box. And then this square one is just the right size exactly for the sides that go around the top. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I made this material, and I just measured before I started so that I would know that I had enough for both of these functions. So we'll start with the red one. And we know that we're going to want to have a piece to go along here. And see what a nice size that is. And I'm going to line it up against the side edge when I apply it, because when I put texture into it, it's going to spread out a little bit and be just the right size. So I've got enough to go from here to here to here. And we're going to do it separately, just like we did on this, so that we don't warp this box and have to put it in the heat. So to make this edging a little bit more interesting, I'm going to go along the top of it with this etch and pearl tool. And it just creates those shapes. And then I take the other end of it and just put a hole in the middle of them. So you can get these tools any place. And believe me, I don't get commission or anything from telling you this. And, you know, honestly, I've got a million tools around here that people send me, because even though I don't get commission, they do send me free stuff because they want me to like it and they want me to show it to you. But, you know, some of it's good and some of it I don't know, that either I can't recommend or I don't personally use, or sometimes I just don't like it. So I'm just showing you stuff that I like, because there's no way you're just going to wake up one morning and know this stuff exists, okay? So I'm going to do that all along the edging, and I'll bring you back to that. Now this one, oh gosh, I've got so many options of things I can do with this. But you know, there's a lot of this, and I want to do something that's not going to take up, you know, like the rest of my life. So I'm thinking about just making some random kind of patterns that kind of flow up and down in this one. So I'm going to go like this, like this, like this. That way they're not so close together. They don't take so much time. But you know, you're going to want to see what you're going to do. You know, in a perfect world where I don't have anything else to do, maybe I'll extrude a really skinny strand and weave it through there. You know, these are your little works of art, and you're not making them in a factory, you know, and you're not making them because you have to, because we could all go buy a really pretty box, you know, at Pier 1 or something. You're making them because you're expressing, you know, your art. So make it the way you want to, and feel free to experiment. So in my little tests in my experimental laboratory, I have all kinds of stuff I've acquired over time, and I picked up this Royal Coat decoupage finished in sepia out of my little stash, because I want to put a matte finish over this box. I don't want it to shine. We're trying to make it shabby chic. And I also wanted to see if that sepia would really impart any kind of antiqueness to this clay. So I put it on this strip. Yeah, it'll be fine as a satin sealant. I think it'll show maybe on a lighter color or lighter projects, but I can't even see that I put it on here. So I know it's not going to antique the pieces. It'll be a fine coating though. So then I thought I'd try some brown, and I really fall back on this quite a bit. You can use raw sienna. Is beautiful. I think if I had had that, I might have used it. But this is just a plain, generic, really, you know, inexpensive brown. I put it on like that so it went in all those little holes and stuff. And then I just wiped it back off. If you let it dry for a minute, you can just wipe it off with a baby wipe. That way you can throw it away and you don't have rags to clean and stuff like that. Baby wipes are also lint free, so they're better than paper towels because they don't leave a bunch of stuff you're trying to, you know, to get out of the paint. So I tried that. I really liked it. And we're going to put this kind of a finish on our top, and I'm going to show you how to also antique the sides. So I've got my brown paint. Now this is kind of thin paint, and that's good. If your paint is thick, you could water it down a little bit because you really want it to fall down in the holes. It's going to be wiped off the surface. And I've got my coffee can lid here for a palette. because I don't like always having to wash stuff. So if you have disposable things you can use for this purpose, you know, it'll probably benefit you. That's what I like to do. And go ahead and nurture my lazy side. So basically I'm just making sure that this is falling in every place that isn't the very top surface. There's lots of ways to do this. Now you might be cringing saying, oh my god, Pan, you ruined it. Not everybody likes antique-y stuff. I like to make a lot of bright stuff. But I prefer something that looks like it's got a little bit of history to it. And you can get that effect just so easily with, you know, just this inexpensive paint. So I'm putting that all over it. And by the time I get to the other end, it'll probably be dry enough to wipe off. If you do it at first and you wipe it off, just wipe off a little section, make sure that's, you know, that's the effect you're wanting. And you'll know then whether to add more or less paint or let it dry on there longer. Hey, if you ever are going really slow or you're making a really big project and the paint dries on there, you can sand it. Okay, so I've done that before. I've been doing this huge wall piece, you know, and I was doing all this and I should have stopped and wiped it off halfway through. And I didn't do that. And so now I go to wipe it off and it's pretty hard to get off. Alcohol will break it down if it's fairly fresh. You could get a rag with alcohol. Just take some sandpaper. I don't know, 300, 320, whatever it's called. And just go over the top of your surface and that will remove the acrylic paint. And it's a fun effect too. You might want to just try it just because you want to try it. So we cover this up and we wipe it back off. Now I have these baby wipes that I stuck on top of my lamps to dry them out a little bit, because that way they don't take off too much of your paint that you might not want to come off. So that's just about perfect amount. That's about enough to go down in the holes. It's enough to show off your design, but it's not enough to just ruin your colors. But you know, that's totally up to you. You know, you could have done this with gold, you know, all kinds of things like that. So have fun with it. It's really great how many colors are available now in acrylic paints. So pretty much whatever palette you're using, there'll be, you know, a dark antique color to complement that. Now just for the fun of it, I'm going to go ahead and put a little patina on the sides of the box. If you're going to do much work close to your top, you know, you really could line it afterwards. That just wasn't in the sequence of events for this video. But if you're worried about getting it dirty or it's some beautiful fabric that you've been saving, by all means, you know, line it afterwards. But I'll just sort of, you know, try not to mess it up too much today. So I'm going to take some of my brown and I'm going to put it on here. So it's an interesting effect, and you can do it with really all the colors that you have in here. The colors in the top, your greens, your golds, your turquoise, you could do that same antique effect on your sides with all those colors and wipe them back off and get a really layered and very subtle effect. So experiment and have fun with that. While these pieces were in the oven, I started working on this top. Now, you don't have to do all this stuff, but you know, when I've got 45 minutes to kill, I have to start goofing off. So I got one of these Sharpies. You're going to want some of these. You know, they have really expensive paint pens that you can buy in the hobby stores. They're way more expensive than these, and these work out really well. I'll tell you why. If you want to dress up the edges of things, it really makes your project look nice and finished. And if you use just acrylic paint to do that, your top's really going to stick forever. You really want to avoid getting anything but something more like this kind of an ink on your porous wood surfaces, because it's just, you know, really hard to get it to ever really dry. So you want to keep your coatings, like your Mod Podge, your Varathane, and your acrylic paints off your edges that are going to have movement or are going to open and close. And I went around these edges as well. I also added that green and a little bit of gold to the sides. You know, we were talking about all the things you can do with it. And I really wanted to bring in those colors, plus, you know, I was just really bored and I didn't have anything to do. So I put that on there and wiped it off, and now I've really got a cool finish that brings in all the colors, and it really gives that kind of, you know, this box has seen better days vibe to it, which I like. Anyway, we're going to come back to the finished piece with everything put together. So our project was finished, and I think that was a fun one. You know, as you go through this course, you pick up little skills and little ideas here and there, and you know the most fun thing is making them your own. So when I was playing around with this, I put a little bit of gold into this border. I put a little green paint into this trim. And all of those decisions are going to be yours to make, and you know that's just the joy of creating. So have fun with this. I'd love to see the things that you come up with. You can send me pictures at busypandora@gmail.com, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you again.